Great seeing you for Devos. Okay, as you know, we are covering all the rest of Mark chapter 8 that we didn't do on the weekend. So today, I want to talk to you about the feeding of the 4,000. I want to alert you to something. So there are ignoramuses. That's the nicest way I could put it. They don't know the Bible. They act like they do know the Bible. And they hate God. And I mean this, they're filled with hate and anger. The funny part, could you imagine being angry over something you don't believe? So they don't believe in God. They don't believe in the Bible. I've said before, it's like me saying, I'm really mad at people that believe in fairies, okay? I'm not talking about the fairies you think I'm talking about. I have a relative, they believe in fairies, that live in their home and stuff. And so, okay, I can't get angry because I think it's so dumb. Okay, but the devil used them, and here, this is one of the stories they use. They say, well, the Bible, one part talks about the feeding of the 4,000. Another talk in the Bible talks about the feeding of the 5,000. Okay, that's not true. It's two different feedings. We already saw them, Mark. So we saw there was the feeding of the 5,000, now we have the feeding of the 4,000. So this is the second time the disciples have witnessed this. Okay, so here it says, in those days when they had a great crowd, they're all gathered together, they have nothing to eat. The second time the disciples have witnessed this. Jesus, he tells his disciples, I have compassion on the crowd. Now, I want you to remember that. Because they have been with me now 3 days. And they have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from far away. Now, I want to point something out. As Christians, there's things we do because we feel like, well, okay, I'm supposed to do that. So we don't really want to show up at the hospital, or we really don't want to show up at the funeral home because that's like really depressing and everything. Okay, you don't do things because you know that you should do them. You do them because you have compassion in your heart. That means you got to walk in somebody's shoes for a little while. Imagine that being you. Imagine that was your mother that died. Imagine that you're the one that has cancer. Imagine. Okay, then you'll feel it. You'll feel it. Jesus always had compassion. The disciples are getting worn out. They're human. But Jesus in his flesh, and this is possible, would show up compassion for these people. Say, we have to do something because they're in trouble. Empathy is about standing in somebody else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. So I get myself in trouble all the time. I'm the number one in the church to get in trouble. I'm in trouble again. So I have some children that are really needy right now. They don't know what to do. A parent has died. They don't know where to go. I'm going to be a friend. I get my hands dirty and I put things at risk, trying to find a way so they have a way to live. Because my job is not just to do a funeral sermon, but to help the people. This is all of us. This is what Jesus called us to do. Anything under God's control is never out of control. I was just whining right before I did devotions about something I can't seem to get under control. But God's in control, right? So God has a plan. And so sometimes we're like stressed out about things, but we still have to stop things and do things that we know God wants us to do. And he is testing us. Do you trust that God will provide for your needs? That's a big question. Well, if you do, then why don't you tithe? Why do we complain? Why do we get depressed? Why do we get angry? Just keep praying, believing I know you're going to provide. Look here, Mark 8:8. So they have the little bit of bread and fish, and they share it. It says they ate and they were satisfied. I like it. If you do what God tells you to do, you'll be satisfied. It says, and they took up the broken pieces that were left. There were over 7 baskets left over. Look here. Trust God is going to be able to multiply whatever it is we have, no matter how insufficient it may seem. God's path will never lack God's provision. So you do what God has told you to do. Then God will do what only God can do.